Kyle Harrison pushed his cleaning cart down the long corridor. The wheels squeaked softly against the polished floor. It was 3 in the morning, and the hallways of the Galactic Military Academy were empty. This was when Kyle did his best work when everyone else was asleep. The academy was huge. It floated in space, orbiting a planet called Vexara Prime. Students came here from all over the galaxy to learn how to be soldiers and officers. Kyle had seen hundreds of different alien species in his 3 years working here. Some were tall, some were short. Some had 4 arms. Others had scales or fur or skin that glowed in the dark. Kyle was human. That meant most aliens ignored him. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only joined 15 years ago. Most aliens thought humans were weak and boring. They came from a small planet that nobody cared about. Kyle was fine with that. Being ignored made his job easier. He stopped at a large window and looked out at the stars. The view never got old. Back on Earth, he had lived in a city where you could barely see the sky. Here, space stretched out forever in all directions. Sometimes he wondered if he would ever go back home. Probably not. There was nothing waiting for him there anyway. Kyle moved to the next corridor and started mopping. The work was simple and repetitive. Mop the floors, empty the trash bins, clean the bathrooms, check the air filters. He did the same thing every night. Some people might find it boring, but Kyle liked the routine. It kept his mind quiet. A door opened down the hall. Kyle looked up and saw Commander Ziraketh stepping out of her office. She was a Shandari, one of the telepathic species. Her skin was silver and smooth, and her eyes were large and completely black. She taught combat theory to the advanced students. "Good evening, Kyle," she said as she walked past him. "Evening, Commander," Kyle replied with a small nod. She was one of the few people at the academy who actually spoke to him. Most of the other teachers and staff walked past him like he was part of the furniture. But Commander Ziraketh always acknowledged him. Sometimes she even asked how he was doing. It was a small thing, but Kyle appreciated it. He watched her walk away, then went back to his mopping. The water in his bucket was getting dirty. He would need to change it soon. Kyle always wore long sleeves, even when the station was warm. The environmental controls kept the temperature comfortable for all the different species, which meant it was sometimes too hot for humans. But Kyle never rolled up his sleeves. He had a reason for that. On his right forearm, hidden beneath the fabric, was a tattoo. It was not a normal tattoo. The design was made of geometric patterns that spiraled from his wrist up to his elbow. The lines were intricate and precise, forming shapes that seemed to move if you looked at them too long. But nobody ever saw it. Kyle made sure of that. He finished the corridor and moved to the training rooms. These were large spaces where students practiced combat and tactics. There were simulation chambers, weapons ranges, and obstacle courses. Kyle cleaned them all. Tonight, one of the simulation chambers was still on. Someone had left a training video playing on the main screen. Kyle glanced at it as he entered the room. The video showed a squad of Krultan students trying to rescue hostages from pirates. The Krultan were big aliens with gray skin and 4 arms. They were supposed to be natural warriors. But these students were terrible. Kyle watched them break formation and charge straight at the enemy. They got shot down one by one. The simulation ended with all of them dead and the hostages still captured. Kyle shook his head. "Stupid," he muttered to himself. They should have split into 2 groups. Use the cargo containers for cover. Send one team through the ventilation shafts to attack from above. That is an interesting idea for a janitor to have. Kyle spun around fast. Commander Ziraketh was standing in the doorway. He had not heard her come in. His heart started beating faster, but he kept his face calm. "Sorry, Commander," Kyle said. "I was just thinking out loud. I will finish cleaning and leave." "No, please explain," she said, walking closer to the screen. "Why would you use the ventilation shafts?" Kyle hesitated. He should just say he was wrong and get back to work. But old habits were hard to break. He looked at the frozen image on the screen and his mind automatically started analyzing it. "The pirates are Zarathi," he said slowly. "Their species evolved on a planet with low ceilings. They do not look up very often. It is a blind spot in their tactics. The ventilation shafts in this type of ship run right above the cargo bay. If one team attacks from the front to distract them, another team could drop down from above. The pirates would not expect it. The rescue would be faster and safer." Commander Ziraketh stared at him. Her black eyes seemed to look right through him. Kyle felt uncomfortable under her gaze. "You speak like someone with military training," she said quietly. "I read a lot," Kyle answered quickly. He picked up his mop. "The Academy Library has books about different species and their fighting styles. I have a lot of free time." The commander took another step toward him. Kyle could feel something strange in the air. The Shendari were telepathic. They could read minds if they wanted to, but Kyle had trained himself years ago to keep his thoughts protected. He had mental walls that even telepaths could not break through easily. He saw surprise flash across her face. "You have barriers in your mind," she said. "Strong ones. Only military people and spies learn to do that." She tilted her head. "Who are you really, Kyle Harrison?" Before Kyle could answer, someone else ran into the room. It was Danny Chen, a young human cadet. He was one of only 5 humans studying at the academy. Danny was breathing hard and looked stressed. "Commander Ziraketh, I need help with tomorrow's exam and nobody will study with me because I am human and they all think humans are useless and—" Danny stopped talking when he saw Kyle. His face changed. "Oh, sorry, I did not mean to interrupt." "It is fine," Kyle said. He started pushing his cart toward the door. "I need to go anyway." But as he walked past Danny, his sleeve caught on the edge of the cleaning cart. There was a ripping sound. The fabric tore and pulled up his arm, exposing the tattoo underneath. Danny's eyes went wide. His face turned pale. He stared at the geometric patterns on Kyle's forearm like he had seen a ghost. "That is a sentinel mark," Danny whispered. "But that is impossible. The Sentinel program ended 8 years ago. Everyone said they were all dead." Kyle finished the sentence. He pulled his sleeve back down quickly. "Yes, they are all dead." Commander Ziraketh looked shocked. "You are one of Earth's Sentinels? The Special Forces unit that fought off the Draxian invasion?" Kyle said nothing. His jaw was tight. "I read about them in history class," Danny said. His voice was filled with awe now instead of fear. 50 Sentinels held off 10,000 Draxian soldiers for 3 days. Every military school in the galaxy studies that battle. The Sentinels were supposed to be the most elite fighters humanity ever created. But the program was shut down after the war. They said the soldiers were too dangerous to keep active, so they scattered us," Kyle said quietly. "New names, new lives. As long as we stayed quiet and did not cause trouble, Earth's government let us disappear." He looked at Commander Ziraketh. "I have been quiet for 8 years, Commander. I just want to keep it that way." The commander studied him for a long moment. "The mark on your arm is not normal ink," she said. "It is psionic ink, bonded to your nervous system. It makes you faster and stronger. It helps you think like a tactical computer, and it stores information, does it not? Every battle you ever fought, every technique you learned, all encoded into your skin." Kyle did not answer. He did not need to. His silence told her everything. Commander Ziraketh looked like she wanted to ask more questions. But before she could speak, alarm sirens started blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. A voice came over the intercom system. "This is Station Commander Velthos. Unknown vessel approaching at high speed. All students to emergency shelters immediately. All staff to defensive positions." "This is not a drill." Kyle's hands tightened into fists. The tattoo on his arm began to feel warm under his sleeve. The alarm continued to scream through the corridors. Kyle heard hundreds of footsteps above him as students ran toward the emergency shelters. Danny looked scared, his eyes darting between Kyle and Commander Ziraketh. "What do we do?" Danny asked. "You go to the shelter with the other cadets," Commander Ziraketh said firmly. "Now, Danny, move." The young cadet nodded and ran out of the room. Kyle could hear him joining the crowd in the main corridor. The commander turned back to Kyle. "You need to come with me to the command center," she said. "No," Kyle replied. "I am just a janitor. I should go to the shelter too." "Stop lying," she said sharply. "We both know what you are, and right now the station might need a sentinel." Kyle wanted to argue, but deep down he knew she was right. He had spent 8 years pretending to be normal. 8 years hiding from what he really was. But that life was over the moment his sleeve tore. There was no going back now. "Fine," he said. "Let me get my cart to storage first." "There is no time for that. There is always time to put your tools away properly," Kyle said. It was something his first commander had taught him years ago. Take care of your equipment and it will take care of you. He pushed the cart into a supply closet and locked it. Then he followed Commander Ziraketh to the command center. They took a fast elevator up 3 levels. When the doors opened, Kyle saw organized chaos. Officers were running between workstations. Screens showed data and star charts. In the middle of it all stood Station Commander Velthos. Velthos was a Krulthan, massive and intimidating. He had steel-gray skin and tactical implants along his skull that glowed with soft blue light. His forearms moved quickly as he coordinated the station's defense. When he saw Kyle and Ziraketh enter, his eyes narrowed. "Commander, why did you bring a janitor to the command center?" he asked. "Because he is not just a janitor," Ziraketh replied. "This is Kyle Harrison. He was a sentinel." Every officer in the room stopped what they were doing and stared at Kyle. He felt uncomfortable under all those alien eyes, but he kept his expression neutral. "A sentinel?" Velthos repeated. "I thought they were all discharged." "They were," Kyle said. "I have been out for 8 years. I clean floors now." "Not today you do not," Velthos said. He gestured to the main screen. "Look." Kyle stepped forward and studied the display. A ship was approaching the station fast. It was dark and angular, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. The design was Varath, but something about it looked wrong. Modified, upgraded for combat. "Scans show heavy weapons," said a human officer at one of the stations. Her name tag read Lieutenant Amy Parker. "Energy signatures match Varath collective technology, but the hull configuration is custom." "This is a raider ship. Have you tried talking to them?" Kyle asked. "Hailing them now," Velthos said. The screen changed. A face appeared, scarred and brutal. It was a Varath captain, but half his face was covered in cybernetic implants. Behind him, Kyle could see other aliens moving around. Mercenaries from different species, all heavily armed. "Galactic Military Academy," the Varath captain said. His voice sounded mechanical because of his implants. "You will surrender the station in 1 hour. We know you train the children of every major world here. Think about how much money the council will pay to get them back safely." Station Commander Velthos stepped in front of the screen. "This station is under council protection. You are making a serious mistake. Stand down now or face consequences." The Varath captain laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. "Consequences? From an academy? You have maybe 25 security guards and some teachers. We have 150 combat veterans. We have already destroyed your long-range communications. Your distress signals are being jammed. Nobody is coming to help you. Surrender or we take the station by force and your students will suffer." The transmission ended. The command center was silent for a moment. "Can we repair communications?" Velthos asked. Lieutenant Amy Parker shook her head. "They hit the main array with an electromagnetic pulse. Repairs will take at least 12 hours, maybe more. Can we hold them off that long?" Nobody answered. Kyle could see the fear on their faces. The academy had security officers, but they were not frontline soldiers. The instructors were skilled fighters, but there were only about 30 of them. Against 150 raiders, the odds were terrible. "We need to evacuate all students to the reinforced shelter on Deck 3, Kyle said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. "Seal it with the emergency bulkheads. The shelter was built to survive a direct hit from a warship. The students will be safe there." "And what about defending the station?" Velthos asked. Kyle walked to the tactical display and studied it. His mind was already working, analyzing the situation. The tattoo on his arm felt warm, like it was waking up after a long sleep. Information started flowing into his thoughts. Station layout, defensive positions, weak points, attack vectors. "They will breach from 3 locations," Kyle said, pointing at the display. "Docking ports 7, 12, and 19. Those are the closest points to the shelter, and they will want to reach the students fast. Standard Varath Raider tactics, and how can you possibly know that?" Lieutenant Parker asked. "Because it is what I would do," Kyle replied. "The tattoo helps too. It analyzes tactics and probabilities based on enemy behavior patterns." He turned to Velthos. "You need to get every student into that shelter now. Lock it down, then position your security forces here, here, and here." He pointed at 3 spots on the map. "These corridors lead to the docking ports. They are narrow, which limits how many raiders can attack at once. Your people can hold there longer." "That is still not enough," Velthos said grimly. "We can slow them down, but we cannot stop them." Kyle was quiet for a moment. He looked down at his arm, at the sleeve covering his tattoo. He had promised himself 8 years ago that he would never use it again. That part of his life was over. He was done being a weapon, but 800 students were on this station. Kids from dozens of different worlds here to learn and grow. They did not deserve to die because some pirates wanted ransom money. I can stop them, Kyle said quietly. Commander Ziraketh put a hand on his shoulder. Kyle, you do not have to do this. Yes, I do, he replied. He looked at Velthos. But I need access to the armory, and I need you to trust me. The station commander studied Kyle's face for a long moment. Then he nodded. Lieutenant Parker, unlock Armory 7. Give him whatever he needs. Sir, are you sure? She asked. No, Velthos admitted. But I do not see any other options. He looked at Kyle. Can you really stop 150 raiders by yourself? I held a defensive position against 10,000 Draxians once, Kyle said. This is just another day. He left the command center and headed for the armory. Commander Ziraketh followed him. They rode the elevator down in silence. When the doors opened, Kyle went straight to his locker in the maintenance staff room. What are you doing? Ziraketh asked. Kyle opened the locker and pushed aside his extra uniforms. Hidden in the back was a black bag. He had kept it there for 8 years, telling himself he would never need it. He pulled it out and unzipped it. Inside was his old combat suit, black, form-fitting, designed to move like a second skin. It was made from advanced materials that could stop most small arms fire and deflected energy blasts. Kyle had not worn it since the day he left the Sentinel program. I thought they made you give up all your equipment, Ziraketh said. They did, Kyle replied. This is a copy I made before I left. Just in case. He started removing his janitor uniform. Turn around, please, she did. Kyle changed quickly, pulling on the combat suit. It still fit perfectly. The material adjusted to his body, sealing at the wrists and neck. He felt different wearing it. More focused. More dangerous, okay, he said. Ziraketh turned back around. Her eyes widened slightly. In his janitor clothes, Kyle had looked harmless and ordinary. In the combat suit, he looked exactly like what he was. A weapon built by humanity's best military scientists. They walked to the armory together. Lieutenant Parker was waiting there with 2 security guards. She had already opened the weapons lockers. What do you need? She asked Kyle. He walked along the racks looking at the options. Plasma rifles, energy pistols, ballistic weapons, explosives. The academy had a good selection. Kyle picked 2 plasma rifles and checked their charge levels. Full. Good. He took a combat harness and attached the rifles to his back with magnetic locks. Then he selected 2 high-frequency blades. They were about the length of his forearm. With edges that vibrated at speeds too fast to see, they could cut through most armor like it was paper. Kyle tested the activation switches. Both blades hummed to life, glowing slightly. He turned them off and attached them to his belt. Anything else? Parker asked. Explosives, Kyle said. Plasma charges, magnetic grapples, remote detonators. She raised an eyebrow but did not question him. She brought out a case of equipment. Kyle selected what he needed and loaded it into pouches on his harness. You are planning something big, Ziraketh observed. I am planning to win, Kyle replied. He looked down at his right arm. The tattoo was visible now through the suit's material. He pressed his hand against it and took a deep breath. Then he activated it for the first time in 8 years. The tattoo began to glow with blue light. Kyle felt information flood into his mind. Station schematics appeared in his vision like a heads-up display. Tactical analyst Kyle moved through the maintenance tunnels like a shadow. The tattoo on his arm glowed softly in the darkness, giving him just enough light to see. Information flowed through his mind continuously. The station layout was crystal clear in his thoughts. He could see every corridor, every room, every possible path the raiders might take. Above him, he heard the sounds of hundreds of feet running. The students were evacuating to the shelter. Kyle hoped they would all make it in time. He climbed through a vertical shaft using the metal rungs built into the wall. His body moved efficiently, every motion precise. The combat suit helped, but the tattoo did more. It coordinated his muscles, balanced his weight, made him move like a machine instead of a man. He reached docking port 7 and stopped. Through a maintenance grate, he could see the heavy door that led to the port. The raiders would cut through it soon. Kyle checked his weapons one more time. Both plasma rifles were ready. The high-frequency blades were charged and waiting on his belt. Then he waited. Patience was important in combat. Rush in too early and you give away your advantage. Rush in too late and people die. Kyle had learned this lesson the hard way years ago. The sound came first. a high-pitched whine of plasma torches cutting through metal. Kyle watched as a glowing line appeared in the door, moving in a circle. The raiders were making an entrance. It took them 3 minutes to finish cutting. Then the circular piece of door fell inward with a loud crash. 12 raiders poured through the opening. They were all Varath, wearing heavy combat armor that covered them from head to toe. Their weapons were military grade, probably stolen from a council armory. They moved in formation, professionally trained. The team leader looked around the corridor. "Clear," he said into his communicator. Moving to the student shelter. "Team 1 proceeding?" "Not today," Kyle said from the shadows. The raiders spun around, trying to find the source of the voice. Kyle stepped into the light. Just one human in a black combat suit, standing alone against 12 armored warriors. The team leader laughed. "One human? This is their defense?" Kyle did not waste time with words. He moved. The tattoo fed tactical data directly into his brain. It showed him where each raider would shoot before they pulled their triggers. It calculated the best path through the corridor, the optimal angle for each attack. Kyle's body followed those calculations perfectly. He dropped low as the first shots came. Energy blasts passed over his head, scorching the wall behind him. Kyle drew both high-frequency blades and activated them. They hummed to life, glowing with barely contained energy. The first 2 raiders died before they understood what was happening. Kyle's blades cut through their armor like it was paper, finding the weak points at the joints. They fell without making a sound. The other 10 opened fire, but Kyle was already moving. He ran along the wall, his boots finding purchase on the narrow maintenance ridges that ran along the corridor. The tattoo showed him every bullet, every energy blast, every possible trajectory. He dodged and weaved, too fast for them to track. Another raider fell, then another. Kyle moved like water, flowing around their attacks, his blades singing through the air. The Varath were strong and well-trained, but they fought like soldiers. Kyle fought like a sentinel. In 90 seconds, all 12 raiders were on the ground. Kyle stood in the middle of the corridor, breathing a little harder than before. The tattoo was using energy fast. He could feel the drain in his muscles. But there were 2 more breach points to defend. He heard a voice coming from one of the fallen raiders' communicators. "Team 1, report. What is your status?" Kyle crushed the communicator under his boot. Let them wonder what happened. Fear was a weapon too. He moved through the maintenance tunnels again, heading for docking port 12. The tattoo showed him the fastest route. It also showed him something else. His heart rate was elevated. His breathing was faster than optimal. The exhaustion was starting already. Kyle had not used the tattoo in 8 years. His body had gotten soft, at least by Sentinel standards. He would need to finish this fight quickly or risk burning out. He reached port 12 just as the raiders were cutting through. This time there were 15 of them, not 12. They had learned from Team 1's silence. They were being more careful. Kyle decided to try a different approach. He opened a panel in the ceiling above them and dropped 3 plasma charges. Then he moved away quickly, getting behind cover. 5 seconds later, the charges exploded. The blast was not big enough to kill, but it was enough to confuse. The raiders scattered, shouting at each other in their native language. Kyle used the chaos to attack. He came at them from behind, his blades already moving. This group was tougher than the first. They recovered from the explosion quickly and started coordinating their defense. Kyle had to work harder. He used the corridor itself as a weapon, forcing them into narrow spaces where their numbers did not matter. He triggered emergency bulkhead doors, separating them into smaller groups. The fight took longer this time. 4 minutes. Kyle took a hit to his shoulder, an energy blast that burned through his suit and scorched his skin. It hurt, but the tattoo released chemicals into his bloodstream that dulled the pain. He could feel the wound closing already, accelerated healing being another gift from the psionic ink. When the last raider fell, Kyle leaned against the wall for a moment. His breathing was heavy now. The tattoo was burning through his energy reserves fast. He had maybe 30 minutes left before complete exhaustion hit. One more breach point. Port 19. He started moving again, slower this time. The tunnels felt longer than before. His legs felt heavier. But he pushed through. There were students depending on him. Kids who just wanted to learn and grow, who had nothing to do with galactic politics or raider attacks. Kyle reached Port 19 and stopped cold. Through the grate he could see that this group was different. 20 raiders all wearing elite combat gear. They had better weapons, better armor, better training. These were the Varath captain's personal guard, and they knew someone was hunting them. They were not rushing in like the other teams. They were setting up defensive positions, watching every angle, moving carefully. Kyle realized this was going to be much harder. He studied their formation through the grate. The tattoo analyzed their positions, their equipment, their likely tactics. Then it showed him 3 possible attack strategies. Each one had a low probability of success, less than 40%, but there was a 4th option, a crazy one. The tattoo showed it to him with a warning label. High risk, high energy cost. Possible system failure. Kyle smiled grimly. When had he ever taken the safe option? He moved to an access panel and started rewiring the station's emergency systems. It took him 2 minutes to bypass the safety protocols. Then he triggered every emergency bulkhead in the section simultaneously. Heavy doors slammed down from the ceiling, dividing the corridor into separate chambers. The 20 raiders suddenly found themselves split into groups of 3 and 4, isolated from each other, unable to see what was happening in the other sections. Kyle went to work. He moved from chamber to chamber through the maintenance tunnels. Each time he dropped in from above or came through a wall panel. The raiders would see him for just a moment, a shadow with glowing blades before he struck. He was not fighting 20 enemies anymore. He was fighting 4 groups of 5, one at a time, but the cost was brutal. Kyle took more hits. Energy blasts burned his legs and side. One raider managed to slash his arm with a vibro knife before Kyle killed him. The wounds were not fatal, but they added up. The tattoo was working overtime to keep him functional, flooding his system with stimulants and painkillers. The last group of raiders fought the hardest. They had heard the sounds of combat from the other chambers. They knew death was coming for them. When Kyle broke through their section, they were ready. The fight was vicious and close. Kyle's blades clashed against their armor. They hit him with the butts of their rifles, trying to knock him down. One raider got his hands around Kyle's throat and squeezed. The tattoo showed Kyle where to stab, and his blade found the gap in the armor under the raider's arm. Finally, it was over. All 20 raiders were down. Kyle stood in the middle of the carnage, swaying slightly. Blood dripped from multiple wounds. His combat suit was torn in several places. The tattoo's glow was flickering now like a dying light. He opened his communicator with shaking hands. Command, this is Kyle. All 3 breach points are secured, raiders neutralized. There was a long pause. Then Station Commander Velthos's voice came through, filled with disbelief. All of them? Kyle, there were over 40 raiders in those teams. 47, Kyle corrected. I counted. He started walking toward the nearest medical station, stumbling slightly. How long until communications are repaired? 8 more hours minimum. Good, keep the students in the shelter. The raider ship still has over 100 fighters on board. They will try again. Kyle, you cannot fight another wave. You need medical attention. I need 5 minutes and a first aid kit, Kyle said. Then I am going after their ship. What? That is suicide. No, Kyle replied, his voice hard despite his exhaustion. It is a tactical necessity. If I wait for them to come here, they choose the battle fee. Kyle dragged himself through the airlock and collapsed on the floor. The tattoo had stopped glowing. His body was shutting down from exhaustion. Every muscle ached. The wounds on his shoulder, legs, and side throbbed with pain. The stim shots were wearing off, and reality was catching up with him. He heard footsteps running toward him. Multiple people. Voices shouting orders. Someone rolled him onto his back gently. Kyle looked up and saw Commander Ziraketh's face above him. You insane human, she said, but there was relief in her voice. You went into space without a proper suit. Just your combat gear and a breather mask. You could have died. But I did not, Kyle managed to say. His voice was rough. The raider ship? Disabled. Dead in space. We are already sending security teams to board it and capture the remaining crew. She looked at someone Kyle could not see. Get a medical team here now. 2 doctors arrived with a stretcher. They were Vaori, their crystalline bodies refracting the corridor lights into rainbow patterns. They started scanning Kyle with medical devices, speaking quickly to each other in their musical language. Severe exhaustion, one of them said in common galactic. Multiple second-degree energy burns, lacerations, possible internal bruising. And something else. The doctor's scanner focused on Kyle's arm. The psionic tattoo is partially destabilized. It is drawing too much energy from his system. Can you treat him? Ziraketh asked. We can stabilize his physical injuries, but the tattoo is beyond our expertise. He needs a specialist in psionic technology. They lifted Kyle onto the stretcher and rushed him to the medical bay. The ceiling lights passed above him in a blur. Kyle tried to stay conscious, but darkness was creeping in at the edges of his vision. The last thing he heard before passing out was Station Commander Velthos's voice. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command. Tell them we have a sentinel here and he just saved 800 lives. They need to send someone immediately." When Kyle woke up, he was in a medical bed. Soft sheets, dim lights, the quiet beeping of monitors. His body felt strange, like it was wrapped in cotton. Pain medication, probably. Good pain medication. He turned his head slowly and saw Commander Ziraketh sitting in a chair beside his bed. She had been reading something on a datapad, but she set it down when she saw his eyes open. "Welcome back," she said. "How long was I out?" Kyle's voice was scratchy. 20 hours. The doctors had to put you in a medical coma to let your body recover. The tattoo was still trying to draw energy even while you were unconscious. They had to use a psionic dampener to shut it down temporarily. Kyle looked at his arm. The tattoo was there, but it looked different, darker. The lines seemed less defined than before. "Is it damaged?" "The doctors are not sure. They think it destabilized from overuse. You pushed yourself too hard." Ziraketh leaned forward. "Kyle, you fought 47 raiders and disabled a warship alone. That would have killed most people. Most people are not sentinels. Most sentinels are dead," she said quietly. "Now I understand why. This tattoo, this power, it consumes you from the inside." Kyle did not argue. She was right. The Sentinel program had created incredible warriors, but at a terrible cost. 50 operatives had been made. 23 died in combat. 18 more died from the psychological trauma or physical breakdown after the war ended. Only 9 survived long enough to be discharged. Kyle was one of the 9, and even he had come close to losing himself several times. "What happened while I was unconscious?" he asked, changing the subject. Ziraketh picked up her datapad. Station security boarded the raider ship. They captured 93 pirates, including the captain. No casualties on our side. The raiders surrendered quickly once they realized their ship was disabled and their boarding teams were gone. She smiled slightly. "The captain asked about you. He wanted to know what kind of monster Earth had sent against him. What did you tell him?" "Nothing." "Let him wonder." She scrolled through her notes. "Communications were repaired 6 hours ago. We sent a full report to the council. They are sending a diplomatic team to investigate. And Earth Command sent someone too. A government representative named Director Lisa Grant. She'll be here tomorrow." Kyle closed his eyes. "I know Director Grant. She was part of the committee that shut down the Sentinel program." She did not sound happy in her message. "Something about you violating your discharge terms." "Probably." Kyle opened his eyes again. "Where are the students?" "Safe. All 832 of them. They were released from the shelter after we secured the raider ship. Many of them have been asking about you." Ziraketh hesitated. "Kyle, you are a hero to them. Especially to the human cadets. Danny Chen has been telling everyone about what you did. I am not a hero. I just did what was necessary." "That is exactly what heroes say," she replied. A doctor entered the room, a tall Shendari with gentle hands. He checked Kyle's vital signs and looked at the monitors. "Your physical injuries are healing well. The burns are already starting to close and the lacerations are sealed. Your body has remarkable regenerative abilities." "Side effect of the tattoo," Kyle explained. "It keeps the host alive so it can keep functioning. Fascinating technology, but also dangerous." The doctor pulled up a holographic display showing Kyle's arm. "The tattoo's energy matrix is unstable. I recommend you avoid activating it again for at least a month, possibly longer. Your body needs time to recover. And if I activate it anyway, permanent damage. Possibly death. The tattoo could burn out completely, taking part of your nervous system with it." Kyle nodded. "Understood." The doctor left and Ziraketh stood up. "I should let you rest. The director will be here tomorrow and you need to be ready for that conversation." "Commander," Kyle said before she could leave. "Thank you. For believing me." "For trusting me," she smiled. "You made it easy. Now sleep, Sentinel. You earned it." The next day, Kyle was sitting up in bed when Director Lisa Grant arrived. She came with 2 assistants and a security escort, all wearing formal Earth government uniforms. The director was a stern woman with gray hair pulled back tightly. Her eyes were hard and cold. Station Commander Velthos and Commander Ziraketh were also present for the meeting. They stood on either side of Kyle's bed, and Kyle appreciated their support. Kyle Harrison, Director Grant said without preamble, also known as Sentinel-7. You violated the terms of your discharge. The Sentinel program is classified at the highest level. Your actions here have exposed its existence to dozens of alien species and governments. I saved 800 lives, Kyle replied calmly. I prevented an interstellar incident that would have damaged the Council's reputation and put Earth in a difficult position politically. You were supposed to stay hidden. That was the agreement. The agreement assumed I would never face a situation where intervention was necessary. I made a choice, Director. I can live with that choice.
Can you?
Director Grant's expression hardened. You do not get to lecture me about choices. The Sentinel program destroyed lives. It turned good soldiers into broken weapons. We shut it down to protect people, including you. And yet when a crisis came, those broken weapons were exactly what was needed, Station Commander Velthos said, his deep voice filling the room. Director Grant, I have submitted a full report to the Galactic Council's Military Committee. They want to meet Kyle Harrison. They want to understand what a Sentinel is and what humanity is capable of producing. Absolutely not. His file is classified. Then unclassify it, Velthos said, because whether you like it or not, the galaxy knows about him now. 93 pirates survived his attack. They will talk. The students here will talk. The news feeds are already running stories about the mysterious human who defended the Academy. You cannot hide this. Director Grant was silent for a long moment. Her jaw was tight with anger, but Kyle could see calculation in her eyes. She was thinking about the political implications. Finally, she spoke. I need to consult with Earth's government. But Kyle, understand this. If you are allowed to continue operating, you will not be a janitor anymore. You will be under constant scrutiny. Your life will never be private again. Every decision you make will be analyzed by governments across the galaxy. I understand, Kyle said. But Director, I did not ask for this. I did not plan to reveal myself.
I just wanted to clean floors and read books.
The Raiders made the choice for me. All I did was respond. And how did you respond? By killing 47 sentient beings. By defending 800 innocent students, Commander Ziraketh interjected, her voice sharp. Every Raider Kyle killed was an armed combatant who came here to commit violence. He showed remarkable restraint, actually. He disabled the Raider ship instead of destroying it, which allowed us to capture the crew alive. A less skilled operative would have simply blown the ship out of space. Director Grant looked at Ziraketh with irritation. Commander, this is an Earth matter. With respect, Director, it stopped being just an Earth matter the moment Kyle Harrison defended a Galactic Council installation, Velthos said. The Council has jurisdiction here, and they are very interested in meeting him. The Director's communicator beeped. She looked at it, then at Kyle. I need to make some calls. We will continue this conversation later. She turned and left, her assistants following quickly. When she was gone, Kyle let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. That went better than I expected. She is afraid, Ziraketh observed. Offered 2 weeks passed before Director Grant returned to the Academy. In that time, Kyle had mostly recovered from his injuries. The burns had healed, leaving only faint scars. The lacerations were gone. His body felt strong again, though the doctors warned him that the tattoo still needed time to fully stabilize. Kyle spent most of those 2 weeks in his quarters, reading and thinking. The Academy had given him a larger room, more befitting his new status. He did not ask for it, but Station Commander Velthos insisted. Kyle missed his small janitor's quarters. They had been simple and honest. This new room felt like something he had not earned. Commander Ziraketh visited him every day. Sometimes they talked about what happened. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence while she worked on lesson plans and Kyle read. He appreciated her presence more than he could express. On the 15th day, she came to his room with news. Director Grant is back, Ziraketh said, and she brought someone with her, a representative from the Galactic Council's Military Committee. They want to meet with you in 1 hour. Kyle set down his book. Did Grant say what Earth decided? No, but she looked less angry than last time. That might be a good sign. Kyle stood and looked at himself in the mirror. He was wearing simple civilian clothes, not the combat suit or his old janitor uniform, just plain pants and a shirt. His hair was longer than military regulation. He looked like a normal person, except for the tattoo visible on his right forearm. He had stopped trying to hide it. "How do I look?" he asked. "Like a man about to change his life," HFY replied. They walked together to the conference room. Kyle noticed students watching him as they passed through the corridors. Some whispered to each other. A few waved. One young Krulthan cadet actually saluted. Kyle nodded back awkwardly. When they reached the conference room, Kyle found Director Grant sitting at a large table. Beside her was an alien Kyle did not recognize. The being was tall and thin, with blue skin and large eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Its species was Tellurian, known for their diplomatic skills and analytical minds. "Kyle Harrison," Director Grant said, gesturing to a chair. "Please sit. This is Ambassador Nira Tell, representing the Galactic Council's military committee." Kyle sat down. Commander Ziraketh and Station Commander Velthos entered behind him and took seats as well. Ambassador Tell studied Kyle for a long moment before speaking. Its voice was melodic and calm. "Kyle Harrison, or should I call you Sentinel-7? I have read the reports about what happened here. Quite extraordinary. One human operative defeating 47 trained raiders and disabling a warship. The Council is very impressed. I was just doing what needed to be done," Kyle said. "Yes, I have heard that phrase before from soldiers. It is what all true warriors say when they accomplish the impossible." The ambassador folded its long fingers together. "The Council has been discussing the Sentinel program extensively over the past 2 weeks. We find it fascinating that Earth developed such advanced psionic technology and kept it secret." "It was classified for good reasons," Director Grant interjected. "The program had serious problems. Psychological issues, ethical concerns, high casualty rates. And yet it produced results," Ambassador Tell replied. "Results that quite possibly saved 800 young lives from dozens of Council member worlds. That cannot be ignored." The ambassador looked at Kyle. "Tell me, Kyle Harrison, why did you leave the Sentinel program?" Kyle was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "The program broke people. We were turned into weapons, and weapons do not have easy lives after the war ends. 23 of us died in combat. 18 more died from what the war did to our minds and bodies. Only 9 of us survived to be discharged. I survived because I was lucky and because I knew when to walk away. And yet you came back when it mattered?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because 800 students did not deserve to die for political games and ransom money. Because I had the skills to help and nobody else did. Because standing by and doing nothing would have made me a coward, and I am many things, but I am not that." Ambassador Tell seemed pleased with this answer. "The Council has a proposal for you, Kyle Harrison. We understand Earth's concerns about reactivating the Sentinel program. But we also recognize that the galaxy is becoming more dangerous. Pirate attacks are increasing by 20% each year. Fringe militant groups are conducting more raids. Traditional security forces are struggling to respond effectively." "What kind of proposal?" Kyle asked, though he suspected he already knew. "We want you to stay here at the Galactic Military Academy. Not as a janitor, but as an instructor. You would teach advanced tactical operations to senior cadets. Combat theory, strategy, asymmetric warfare, all the things that made you such an effective operative." Kyle looked at Director Grant. "And Earth approves of this?" The director's expression was tight, but she nodded. "After extensive discussions with our government and the Council, yes. But there are conditions. You will not be reactivated as an official Sentinel. Your status will be listed as military consultant. You will teach, not fight. And you will submit regular psychological evaluations to ensure you remain stable. And if I refuse, then you will return to Earth," Grant said firmly. "Your discharge terms will be modified to require you to stay on human-controlled worlds only. No more hiding in plain sight at alien installations. The Council knows about you now, and we cannot have you operating independently without oversight." Kyle understood the message clearly. Accept the teaching position or lose his freedom. It was not really a choice at all, but as he thought about it, Kyle realized he did not mind. These past 2 weeks, watching the students walk the corridors, seeing them laugh and learn and grow had reminded him of something important. The Sentinels had not been created just to kill. They had been created to protect. To stand between the innocent and the dangerous. To make the hard choices so others did not have to. Maybe teaching was just another way of doing that. "I accept," Kyle said. "On one condition. I choose my curriculum. I teach what I think these students need to know, not what some bureaucrat decides sounds good in a report. Ambassador Tell smiled, a strange expression on its alien face. Agreed. Station Commander Velthos will supervise your work, but you will have considerable freedom in how you teach. When do I start? Next semester begins in 2 months, Velthos said. That gives you time to prepare your lessons and fully recover. The meeting continued for another hour, discussing details and formalities. Kyle signed several documents, both physical and digital. When it was finally over, he walked out of the conference room feeling strange. He had entered as a janitor in hiding. He was leaving as an official instructor at the most prestigious military academy in the galaxy. Commander Ziraketh walked beside him. How do you feel? Confused, relieved, nervous. Kyle smiled slightly.
Maybe all of those at once. You will be a good teacher, she said.
You understand combat at a level most instructors never reach, and you understand the cost of violence. That is important for students to learn. They walked to the observation deck, a large area with windows that looked out at the stars. Several students were there, studying or talking quietly. When Kyle entered, they all turned to look at him. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Danny Chen stood up from where he had been sitting with some other human cadets. He walked over to Kyle and stopped, looking uncertain. Instructor Harrison, Danny said formally, I wanted to thank you for saving us, for showing everyone that humans are not weak. I am not an instructor yet, Kyle replied. And Danny, humans were never weak. We just had not proven ourselves yet. You proved it for all of us. Other students were approaching now. A Krulthan cadet, a Vayori, 2 Shandari, and several others. They all wanted to thank him, to shake his hand, to tell him they hoped he would teach them. Kyle stood there, surrounded by young beings from across the galaxy, and something inside him shifted. For 8 years he had hidden from who he was. He had tried to bury the Sentinel, to pretend that part of his life never happened. But these students did not see a weapon or a broken soldier when they looked at him. They saw someone who had protected them, someone who had risked everything to keep them safe. Maybe that was who he really was. Not a weapon, not a ghost, just someone who stood up when it mattered. 2 months later, Kyle Harrison stood in front of his first class. 42 students from 18 different species sat in the tiered seats, watching him with a mix of curiosity and respect. Danny Chen was in the front row, as eager as ever. Kyle looked at them for a long moment before speaking. My name is Kyle Harrison. Some of you know me as the janitor who defended this station. Others know me as a former Sentinel. But in this classroom, I am just your instructor. I am here to teach you how to think tactically, how to survive in combat, and how to protect the people who depend on you. He rolled up his right sleeve, exposing the tattoo. The geometric patterns caught the light, dark but still visible. This mark represents the Sentinel program. It gave me abilities that helped me win battles. But it also took things from me. Friends, peace, years of my life. I am going to teach you everything I know, not so.